The president is praising his meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong Un, calling it a big moment. As I mentioned earlier, Mr. Trump became the first sitting U.S. president to ever set foot inside North Korea yesterday, and he walked into the demilitarized zone that divides the Korean peninsula and had an impromptu meeting with Kim Jong Un. So for more on this, I am joined by CBS News Senior national security analyst Fran Townsend. She was Homeland Security advisor during the George W. Bush administration. And I'm so happy you're here because I watched this unfold, but even I was struggling to figure out just how significant it was. Critics have said, some of them Democrats, well, it's nothing but a photo op. It's a photo op that he's going to use now to give himself legitimacy. But I mean, everyone around the world is familiar with North Korea and Kim Jong Un, and the only legitimacy he's going to perhaps get is from people within North Korea. I don't think they have much of an option, right? Yeah. And everyone else kind of knows what he's all about and what the regime is all about. So what was this? Was this nothing but a photo op? Was it something worse than a photo op, something that could be used? Or is it really sort of a move towards better diplomacy between the two nations?
You know, Anne Marie, I don't think we're going to know the answer to that for some time. It should be expected that the Democrats in a presidential race are going to come out and criticize the president. Quite frankly, I think we shouldn't permit them to just criticize without asking them the question, so what's your plan? Let's remember, Republican and Democratic presidents over the last 40 years have tried to solve this problem and failed. So, yes, President Trump's step was unconventional. I think he went at great personal and political risk, so he ought to get some credit for that. Yeah. Yes, he's front-loaded the process by demonstrating to Kim, I'm willing to reward you if we can get something accomplished. I think the invitation to the White House that he's held out there is the carrot. If they can come to some sort of an agreement, he'll invite him to the White House. I don't think we should expect he'll do that without an agreement. I think that would be a step way too far. And look, there's some argument to be made that front-loading this process, stepping into North Korea, you know, should he have done it? I think we have to wait to see what he can accomplish.
Yeah, and so he talked about how they have such a great personal connection and said that now moving forward, they'll form teams to, you know, talk about what can be done. But isn't this what happened last time? And the president puts a lot of weight, not just in this situation, but in other situations, on his personal connection to world leaders. But at the end of the day, he's not the one doing the grunt work. And, you know, the last time, when you listen to the Secretary of State, it appeared as if they couldn't sort of get meetings going, that the North Koreans just stopped communicating altogether with the teams from the U.S. Does the president put too much weight on personal connection when we're talking about, you know, this is not a cocktail party? No,
that's right. Although I'll tell you, you know, having worked directly for President Bush, there is something to be said about these personal relationships. I can remember President Bush getting on the phone with President Musharraf when we were very frustrated in the counterterrorism war and the war in Afghanistan and what support we were or weren't getting from the Pakistanis. And so it tends, if they have a personal relationship and there are negotiations going on, used strategically, that relationship can get a breakthrough. We haven't seen that here yet, right? The president is given a good deal by meeting him in Singapore, by going and stepping into North Korea. And I think the legitimacy people are concerned about is not just inside North Korea, but if other world leaders see the president of the United States step into North Korea, they'll feel like this is an opportunity. Maybe it's now an appropriate time for them to have such meetings. And we want to be careful about legitimizing him in the international community until we make some progress on the nuclear program.
Let's talk about that a little bit. You know, why is that a bad thing? What if other countries sort of sign up to the strategy that the U.S. is using? We'll give you a little bit up front in good faith, but we expect something off the back end. Wouldn't that encourage good behavior on the part of North Korea?
It might, but let's remember, we have sanctions in place against North Korea. That has not changed yet. And what you don't want to do is suggest internationally that the sanctions, we're not going to enforce them. They're there, but we're going to move on from this. They're in place, and you want to keep them in place because they're leverage in the negotiations. What you want to do is not ease up on those until you really do make some progress. And so, look, the administration, like all administrations, has talked about a denuclearized Korean peninsula. I don't think that's a realistic possibility in the near term. I think what you're going to see the administration do is more incremental. Can we get them to put a ceiling on and no more production of fissile material, no more ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missile tests, and then use that agreement as a stepping off point to a more long-term denuclearization?
So you mentioned, you know, before the president actually welcomes Kim Jong Un to Washington, D.C., he said he extended the invitation. He should get something in return.
Yes.
What would be sort of the minimum, do you think?
So I think the minimum is sort of a freeze on the production of fissile material, an agreement.
Verified.
Verified, right. And a freeze on ICBM testing, a freeze on all nuclear testing. I mean, I think you've got to have some defined agreement that sort of contains the problem in the immediate term with a commitment to go further.
All right, Fran Townsend, always great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.